Okay, I believe we are live. Good evening, everyone, to a mostly gorgeous Eastern California evening, although it is a little bit breezier and a little bit cloudier than the forecast called for, so we may lose a few sub-exposures here or there when we get a puff of wind or a little cloud rolls over or something, but when the breeze stops, it's actually quite a nice warm night. We're having some days in the mid to upper 70s here right now, so kind of a little winter hiatus from the cold. Anyway, good evening to you, and let's see what we are going to do tonight. I'll turn that off. Okay, so right now I am actually on Bellatrix, which is what I used to set my focusing on. And what I want to look at tonight is actually some of the galaxies that are right down here in the very southern, low southern sky that are right down in the Eridanus constellation. There's a nice cluster of stars in here, and there's a few more out here, and even a nice little planetary nebula, the Skull Nebula, that we'll look at a little bit later, that will be nice in monochrome. So without further ado, let's just go over and go to the Eridanus A group and see what we can pull in for that. Now this is going to be let's go to the next target, 178, so that I have all my gain and everything set right. And eventually I'll have it so that my auto exposure here my display histogram is automatically stretched. Let's see, am I seeing anything? I'm not really seeing much of anything in here. Let's zoom in and see what our Planetarium has to offer. Okay, and then I need to also do this. Okay, so we should be saying there's a number of stars in here, of galaxies in here, and I'm not. Well, I also just updated my plate solver. Let's see if we can, if the plate solver will actually. I usually need to have a higher exposure, so this probably actually won't solve, but we'll see what it does. Hey, good evening, John. Good evening, Julian. How are you guys? Okay, no solution found. That's not a big surprise, because actually I need to have a bit, usually about 8 seconds on my exposures to for the plate solver to do anything. So, oh yeah, well, actually I can see my targets now. They definitely are in here. But I still want to see if my plate solver is going to be able to tell me whether they are there or not. Evening, Frank. How are you? Welcome. This plate solver I'm using is nice. It's a very fast plate solver, and it works well with larger sensors. And when I say larger, I mean sensors that can pull in at least a degree of field of view. It seems to work really well, because it works great with my 533. With the 178, that's only a little under a half a degree field of view in height, it definitely does struggle. And it seems like that's what's happening tonight. It's just continuing to struggle. It also doesn't implement with SharpCap very well, because this resolution up here is too high. I really need to set it at a bin of 2 to cut the resolution in half. But unfortunately, its connection into SharpCap, where I'm calling it from, doesn't allow for that. So it's looking like this is not going to solve. What are we imaging, Julian? Right now we're going for the, well, right now it's a whole lot of nothing, but we're going for the Eridanus A galaxy group, low in the southern sky. But this obviously is not. This obviously is not going to solve. Okay, but I can see where my targets are. They're right up in here. So let's just move our mount so that we're bringing that stuff in here. Because I'm pretty sure that's what we want to be looking at right there. Yeah, so these three stars up here, right above the bright one, are kind of the mirror of this. Yeah, and this here is this one here. So I think this is going to be about where we want to be. So we'll let the mount kind of, I'll help it out a little bit, come back. There we go. A little bit more. Okay, now that should be fairly steady. Okay, and so now I will start the imaging on it, and we'll see what we can pull in. So again, I'm using the new SharpCap33 Beta, which has the sequencer in it, which allows me to go back and forth between settings of the camera for both looking for targets and then for imaging targets, which is a very handy thing to do. And it saves a lot of effort here. So with constantly resetting settings and things every time you want to change targets or whatever. So, and tonight I am going to continue attempting to use 60-second sub-exposures. As I said, we are having some puffs of breeze every here and there, which will certainly ruin a sub-exposure if one happens in the middle of me doing an exposure. And we do have little thin wispy clouds here and there that are floating by, so that may also cause some issues, but for the most part I think we will be okay. Alright. Oh yeah, that's right, I forgot, that's right. So Julian and John, you guys know each other. You're from the same neck of the woods. So, good to have you guys here. Alright, let's bring the histogram adjustments in a little bit here. And bring that down like that. Oh, and I also need to set I like to do a couple of enhancements on here, which helps sharpen things up a little bit. This one helps sharpen it, and then this one helps have it not sharpen too much, so that it's just making it a bunch of jaggedy noise. And the two of them seem to work pretty well together here. So you can see already we've got a few. We've got at least 5 or 6 galaxies that I'm seeing in here so far. Unfortunately, a couple of them are way off to the side here, so I could have probably popped this view over a little further if I had noticed that. Yeah, see, there's a few more over here. So yeah, in fact, I'm going to actually reset this. So I'm actually going to start over again and just move those down, because we should have plenty of these in the view. So I'm actually going to just bring this down a little bit so that we might lose that very bottom blob of galaxy there, but we're going to bring in some new ones in the top. Okay, so let's run start imaging 178. Okay, now this will have several galaxies. You know, this is a pretty cool little galaxy group. So we'll wait for that to come in. Hey Julian, well no, I don't think your subscription to will take long, because I'm seeing you being added. My numbers definitely went up. Oh, are all the bricks I use to hold my wedge and scope? Well, while we're waiting for the first sub, that's a good thing to look at. So let me pull that up here and show everybody, because I should do this at the beginning of every session anyway, what my setup is. So here is my telescope. It is a 6-inch f4 imaging Newtonian telescope, a reflector telescope, and it's on top of a Celestron Evolution AltAz mount that I have mounted on top of my homemade wedge, which allows me to keep it polar aligned with the northern celestial pole so that it rotates perfectly with the sky's rotation. And then it's on my no expense spared cinder block pier, and both the pier and the wedge stay outside permanently polar aligned, because when you're polar aligning a mount, the biggest hurdle, the biggest chore with using a polar aligned mount is polar aligning it. And so these get the wedge and the blocks get to stay outside all the time, and then just the scope and the mount go in. And to answer your question, John, these blocks are glued together with a tube of construction adhesive that I just got from the big box hardware store. They are not glued to the bottom of the pad, however, in case I do need to move it, but the blocks actually are glued to each other, and the bottom board underneath the wedge on which it rotates is also glued to the top block. So that is the setup that I am currently using. Evening, Curtis. Am I not? Yeah, I have sound. Julian, I'm still broadcasting sound. Somebody else let us know if my sound has dropped. A couple of nights ago, my sound actually did drop because my broadcasting software lost my connection to my microphone. But I think everything is good tonight. So. But here is our Eridanus A group, and you can see there's a number of galaxies in here. First of all, there's the two bright ones, one of which I almost pushed off the screen completely here. Kind of like got just a peek of it back. But this is the biggest one here. Then there are several more in here. Well, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there that's of some sort of barred, spiral or barred galaxy. There's another one there. There's another fuzzy oval there. And actually there are a number of other very faint ones in here as well that, as we pull in some more sub-exposures, may come in a little bit stronger. So let me do a quick histogram adjustment here. Maybe brighten this up again for you guys a little bit. Can't have it too bright. What came up at your club meeting, John? The use of cinder blocks? There's a club over in Todd, Morton, England, that is claiming ownership of the cinder block mount. It's called a Todd Morton pier, and they have, for many years now, they planted stacks of cinder blocks on the ground. They typically mortared them together. They don't. You know, nowadays we're kind of using the more modern adhesive stuff. So they just around the property where they do their dark site for their club, they have these cinder blocks. Now they stack theirs on end, not on their sides like I have mine. And we are getting some dropped subs. Yet the sub quality went down. I wonder if we got a little cloud or something in the way. It's possible we got a little cloud that just moved in, because let me take a look at the individual frames. It doesn't look too bad. But it's possible that we have a little fuzzy cloud that just moved in, and so it's not allowing our it's rejecting our frames. Anyway, so the Todd Morton Club over in England, they just plant, I don't know if they plant one actually in the ground or if they just do a little cement pad, a mini cement pad, and then it's just 2 or 3 concrete blocks stacked on end and mortared together, and that's what they put their scopes on. And of course the blocks just get to stay outside because of course they're weatherproof, and that's actually what I like a lot about mine too, is that you know, I can leave this thing outside and it's fine. Gosh darn it. Boy, we were doing so good. I have a feeling we got a little bit of a... Let me take a look over there, but... I'm not seeing any obvious clouds up there, but there must be something that moved over, because we're not... The last 3 sub-exposures have not been good. They don't look terrible, but well, I can turn on, if this keeps up, like if this one gets rejected, I'll just turn the filter off, or just turn it up. Yeah, I think I'm just going to turn the filter off. So we'll just start collecting whatever we get. Oh shoot, individual frames is not what I want to be looking at. Stack. So yeah, we may have some rough images tonight, but oh well. In fact, let me just turn, I'm going to turn it back on, but I'll turn up the number. In the past I've run this as high as 13, so let's put it up to 12. That should be good enough. It should be taking stuff in now, because these don't look terrible, they're just a little bit out. But yeah, John, there's no doubt that they are a bit less expensive, especially when, like with me, my landlord is a pack rat, and so here we go. Now we're stacking again. My landlord is a pack rat, and so the concrete blocks were actually here in a scrap pile on the property. So even the concrete blocks were free. The only thing I actually had to buy was the tube of concrete adhesive, construction adhesive. Well, hopefully now that I've got the filter turned up, adjusted up, it will now collect more subs here and not be quite so picky with what it's rejecting. But you can certainly see that we have a number of galaxies in here, and as I get more sub-exposures, the background will get darker and darker. The nice thing about the long exposures is that it really provides some contrast and really reduces the noise a lot. You can probably see as right down here in the bottom right hand corner is the progress bar of each exposure. So when it gets to the end, it'll start over again. And right when it gets to the end, if you look at the image, especially when it's doing the first 2 or 3 of them, the background will suddenly darken as it adds the next sub-exposure on, which really helps tell the image processor on the computer, in the software, that, oh no, this is dark stuff, so reduce that noise, and those pixels are noise, and it really helps smooth out and make the image a lot more contrasty, so the bright stuff stands out against the black background. And now with my camera, you can see that there's a pretty bright spot up here in the upper right hand corner. This corner here is much brighter than the others, and that is what's called amp glow. That's an artifact of this sensor. All these sensors have their own kind of noise built in, and so it's an artifact of the electronics of the CMOS sensor that is in that's in the camera, that it does create some of its own noise, and some of the pixels are just create noise in the corners and near the edges. If I turn the gain up a whole lot, or the stretch up a whole lot, you'll see the whole bottom here will be kind of like a white fuzzy snow, and that's just that amp glow stuff. Well, I don't know, John. Maybe it's not too late to sell it, huh? Sell it and go invest yourself in a concrete block pier. Yeah, and then, and like Julian says, and then there are the benefits of retail therapy. You know, it does work. It absolutely does work. Pandemic got you down? Go buy something expensive. Go buy yourself something nice. Julian, no, it is not. In fact, right now, what is it? Yeah, in fact, the camera right now is running at almost 20C, which is part of the reason I'm also getting a little more noise, because the sensor is a little bit warmer. I'm actually I'm looking right now on I've been combing the used market now for a few weeks. I'm hoping to get either the cooled version of my 178, which hasn't been made for a few years and so is pretty rare on the used market, or possibly spend a bit more money. I'd rather not spend, but possibly spend a bit more money and jump up to the 183, which is basically this same sensor but double in size, and it has cooling. So one way or the other, I am hoping to get into some cooling, a cooled version of this camera or its bigger brother. But I wasn't in a big hurry because it's winter time. So right now, the camera stays pretty cold out here at night. It's pretty cold in January and February, right? And then we get these 75-degree days, which were wonderful, but now the night is a little bit warm for my camera, so it's creating a little extra noise. Oh well. 2 votes for Inspector Gadget. I guess you get the title, John. So these galaxies are starting to come in pretty nicely here. We definitely have a couple, 2, 3 out here. And this one looks definitely like a galaxy, not a star, which is more like right next to it. And another galaxy here. Looks like we got something fuzzy in here, but not clear what that is. Obviously these two, the 2 biggest ones, are in here. This looks quite clearly like a galaxy. It's got a good fuzzy bit there. Let me check this histogram. Yep, I got blacks a little bit clipped. Make sure you got, come on, okay. And push this a little bit more so you guys can see it. But definitely looks like one over here. Got that one already. There are some faint, like this here is a very faint fuzzy-ish thing. It's not sharp like a star. All these stars obviously are very much in the foreground. Any star you see is in our galaxy, because other galaxies are so far away that even with our most powerful telescopes we can't see individual stars in them. So all these stars are of course in the foreground. They're in our galaxy, and all the other things that we see here that are fuzzy or bloated, unlike the stars, they are galaxies. So here's another one here, all that. So, and there's a number of other faint fuzzy specks in here. Unclear what those are. They're so dim you can't really tell. They could just be small stars or very distant stars that are in our galaxy but not close enough or bright enough for us to see them very well. Or they could be galaxies in themselves. We know now that there are hundreds of billions of galaxies out there. I think there's as many galaxies out there as there are stars in our own galaxy. So we find more and more and more all the time as we are able to look deeper and deeper. A separate cooling unit. Well, Julian, the cooling units that come with these cameras, they actually cool the sensors themselves. They're actually active cooling systems that actually, they don't just cool the case, they actually run coolant right by the sensor itself. And while people have made passive coolers to stick on the back of the metal backings of these, the uncooled ones, that will keep the case cooler, but it won't directly keep the sensor cooler, which is kind of really what you want. So yes, you can stick a little, some cooling fins and a little fan on the back, and some people have done that. But its cooling effectiveness is limited compared to the two-stage cooling that comes with one of the regular cooled cameras. Well, this is a cool little bunch of galaxies here. Actually, this looks like there's a star in front of this galaxy here. We're just getting a little bit of a bulge there. Yeah, we got a star there, but I think there's another star here, or possibly a supernova in this galaxy, which is a pretty cool thing to see when those happen, and we do see them every now and again. Yeah, see, this is definitely a faint little fuzzy here. Some of these just look faint and fuzzy-ish. That they're so dim, it's hard to tell. You can't really tell whether. And this right here clearly is a galaxy, bordered by a couple of stars, it looks like. So, yeah, Frank, that was my laptop saying it needed food, so I plugged it in. But cool field of galaxies there. That's kind of a nice one. We'll give that another. We'll let this sub finish, and I think we'll move on to our next target. Alright, let's go to next target, which will rechange all my settings for finding stuff, and then we'll go to the next thing here. Okay, we got a bunch of them in here. So, where am I at? So we're still climbing. Well, let's see what we can see here. This one might be pretty dim. We got, yeah, this one is probably going to be a little better. Let's hop down to this one. It doesn't look like we have a picture. We got a line of 4 stars with a 1 hanging down. So let's see what we got here. Unfortunately, I did not resynchronize my those two. I did not resynchronize on those other objects, and so now, darn it. So now my tracking is off a little bit. Let's try going to 4 seconds here. I think it's up in here. Oh boy, I'm not seeing that pattern here. Those two and those two, no, they're not parallel. Son of a gun. Okay. I am not seeing it. Okay, well, there's another way to do this. Let's go to the nearest somewhat bright star, center it, so there it is in there. So let's center that. Center that in my view. That's pretty good. Okay, and then synchronize the mount on that. And then let's go back here. And with such a short hop, that should have me pretty darn close. Oop, let's go in here. Okay, well, let's pull in a sub. Oh, look at this. The bright satellite that just went through. Start imaging 178. Okay. That's what happens when I don't synchronize my mount after finding a target. And my plate solving, unfortunately, isn't working. Which with this sensor, it just doesn't seem to. It works great with my larger sensor, but always struggles with the smaller camera. Let's see if we got lucky and got our galaxy in the frame here. Looks like maybe we didn't. Two bright stars there. Huh. Oh, that's pretty much right on. Should be pretty close to being... I'm not seeing any familiar patterns in here. You know what? Let's see if it'll do a plate solve with a 60-second. Let's see if it'll do a plate solve with a 60-second sub. It's off by half a degree. Uh-oh. No, okay. So it was off by half a degree. So let's clear the old one. With a 60-second sub, it worked instantaneously. Huh, that's interesting. Okay. Well, this should now pull in a galaxy. Hopefully. This time I'll have to resynchronize my mount. So I'm on here. I'm actually peeling off layers here tonight. It's it's so warm. We had about a 75-degree day, and the night tonight is just gorgeously warm. When we have a puff of breeze, it definitely gets cool, which we're having into. Oh, boom! There it is, no doubt. Ooh, and we've already got a straggler right here. So. Yeah, that's definitely it. That's definitely our guy. Let us synchronize. Said it was off by half a degree, but I don't know, that looks like it was pretty close to me. Well, anyway, out here we clearly have another galaxy. I wonder how many more we will get in here. Now, I don't see it in my Planetarium software, because I basically have anything below mag 15, dimmer than magnitude 15, shut off and not displaying, because it's typically too dim for my gear to see. But if I go in here and I turn all that off, we might find what that galaxy is. Yes, it's PGC 13381, and it is a mag 14.7 galaxy. That's about 102,000 light years. That doesn't make any sense. This Stellarium says it's 165.8 light years. That doesn't sound right to me. This one, however, is 70 million light years. That's much more like it. So, anyway, this is a different target. This is a PGC, which is the Peculiar Galaxies Catalog. And so, well, maybe that's what's peculiar about it, because it's way too close to make any sense. Stars are in the order of light years, single numbers, tens, hundreds, thousands of light years away. Whoa, and we just got photobombed by a satellite going right through the frame. But galaxies are in the millions. Our closest neighbor, the Andromeda Galaxy, is about 2.5 or so million light years away. And that's our closest, one of our closest ones, if not the closest. And everything else is much, much further away. This guy here is 70 million light years away. So, the light we are seeing from this galaxy right now left there 70 million years ago. Let's see if Wikipedia says it in PGC 13381. PGC 13381. Yeah, I don't think there's gonna be any entries on it. Nope. It doesn't exist. That's not surprising. That's not surprising. I think there's another little fuzzy in there too. See how our... Yeah, see, now everything's behaving. Well, we had one that was going to get that would have been rejected, but I just had the filter turned up a little too stringent, especially for a night like this where we're getting some pretty good tropical flow. We've got, I mean, which is why it was so warm today. And so transparency is not terribly great. And my camera is definitely running warm because it is a warm night. Hey, we're down to 18 from 20, so that's good. My dark frame, my dark subtraction frame that I took for my 60-second exposures, it was made at 10 degrees C. So we're several degrees above that right now, so it's not quite as effective at reducing the noise as it should be. But I didn't expect we were going to have a night this warm, so... There seems to be another one popping out right over here. That's definitely a fuzzier spot than a star would be, even a dim star. I still think there's something in here too. Let's try. Here, let's get the software out of the way. Make this a little bit bigger. Yeah, there's definitely a fuzzy one there. I think there's another one here. To show you why I keep the galaxies turned off, all of the red circles are galaxies. And this is just in the catalog that I have loaded. So this is the constellation of Eridanus. But this gives you an idea of why I keep any galaxy that's dimmer than Mag 15 turned off. Because otherwise, all you ever see is galaxies everywhere. There are so many of them. It's just craziness. So, our buddy Carl Sagan was right. Billions and billions, and it would be a hell of a waste of space if we were alone. Yeah, John, I don't think they are fluid based. I don't think they're refrigerated. Um, they're just called TECs. I think they're just well, anyway, I don't think there's any fluid there. I could be wrong. That's a pretty cool fuzzball there. We're not seeing a whole lot of detail in that. It's just a regular. It's not a spiral or a barred galaxy or anything, unless the bar is pointing directly at us and we just can't see it. All we're seeing, at least from the angle we see it at, is just a dense core of stars, and as thin out as it heads out. A lot of galaxies look that way. This one here actually looks more disk-like, and there's a brighter core that's kind of popping out as we pull more sub-exposures in, where you got sort of a bright bump in the middle. This here on the outside, right there where my mouse is, that is probably a foreground star in our own universe, our own galaxy. It could, like I said before, it could be a supernova going on in that galaxy, but it's more likely just a foreground star that's in the Milky Way. But it's looking almost disk-like. I think these cameras can pull as much as 3 amps at full load. The ZWOs, that is. I don't know about the other kinds, but I've heard that the ZWOs will pull as much as 3 amps if the cooler's going at 100%. Yeah, definitely a fuzzy bit there, and I think there's a fuzzy bit there too. So while that's finishing up there, I'd better turn off all my galaxies, or I'm never going to be able to find the ones I want to see. So in here I limit their magnitude to 15 and limit their size. If they're too big or too small, typically too small, then they're not good for me, because I can only get down to so much detail before I lose it. Cool. Well, there's about 10 minutes on that one, so that's probably about good. So let's go to the next one, see what we can see. Next target, reset our stuff, and let's try going down to this one. This one might be a little faint, but we'll try it. Mag 11.5 and a surface brightness of 15. That could be pretty dim, but actually that could be it right there, which would make sense because this was a pretty short hop. Again, no image in Stellarium, but we got a little visual double that points right at it, and that looks like them pointing at it. So I think we are good to go. And I've got my syncing on too. Start imaging 178. So now the mount should be able to put us right on the targets. My plate solving isn't working, darn it. What does NGC 1367? Let's see what NGC 1367. NGC 1367. Let's see what do I have? Did I? No, 1367. Nothing. Yeah, it's too obscure for Wikipedia. Oh yeah, got a clear disk here. So we're seeing this. We're seeing a clear disk on this one. Not bad for a surface brightness of mag 15. That's pretty good. Now here's where you can watch. This will be the second sub exposure coming in. So when the sub gets to the end, watch the background on the image all of a sudden darken. It'll get to the end, and then it'll take a second or so for the software to stack it on top, align the background stars, stack it on top, and put it on there. And you watch the background darken. Boom. It's most noticeable in the first 2 or 3, but every sub-exposure that does get added on does darken the background sky, increase contrast, and increase detail also in the object. In fact, now that sub has gone through, I'm actually seeing a bigger disk here that's around the center. This is actually a much nicer galaxy than I thought it was going to be. And it's dim. It's so dim I didn't think we were going to see a whole lot, but John, where are you looking to find that information? I always go to Wikipedia when I'm looking for stuff, but they often don't have data on everything, especially the smaller and less more obscure stuff. So is there a better site I should be looking at for my info? I don't think, yeah, Stellarium doesn't have anything about distance or anything on it. It just has a mag of 11.5 and a surface brightness of 14.5. Oh, SkySafari, okay. Yeah, I have an old version of SkySafari on my old tablet. What a great app that is. I mean, it's a piece of software, really. It's a massive app, but it's a great piece of software, and I'm sure they have kept improving it all the time as it's gone on. But usually Stellarium's pretty good. 78, so this one's 78 million. Frank asks, what setting in Stellarium is allowing additional stars to be visible? I guess I'm not sure what you mean, Frank. Additional stars to be visible. Did you mean the galaxies? Where I had more galaxies visible? All the red circles were galaxies. I think that's probably what you mean, but you can let me know in chat if that's right, and then I can show you what the 3 settings are. In the meantime, we got a nice galaxy forming here, and find any others in the picture. Anybody else out there? This actually looks kind of fuzzy out here as compared to the nice sharp star next to it. Ah, okay, so you really do mean stars. You don't see the same amount of stars. Okay, yeah, while this is doing that, I can show you some stuff in here. If you go into, let's see, where is it? I will have to find it. One of the settings is going to allow the download of more star catalogs. Is it in 4? Sky SSO. Thought it was in settings. Where the heck are you? Not an F2 search window. No, not that. Date and time. Hello, why are you not responding? No, that's your location. I thought it was in F2. Astronomical calculations. Huh. Oh, I see. No, okay. Here it is, Frank. It's in the extras. Down here, and this is F2, or the configuration window. And on the extras tab down here, there are the star catalogs. I don't see the button anymore because I've installed all of them. But if you haven't installed all the star catalogs, there'll be a button down here, and those, I think there's 8 or 9 different star catalogs that you can install, and each one will add X number of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of more stars into what you see here. And so I have all of them installed because when I'm running a camera that's taking such long exposures, I'm seeing stars down to, you know, easily 18 or 19 mag. Yeah, that's where you can install more star libraries. I try to have enough stars installed in here so that I can. It's the same. It's, you know, as close as I can get to what I'm seeing in the camera, and even that you can see it's not. I see a lot more in the camera than are even in all the star catalogs of Stellarium. So, you know, but we do the best we can. So. But we're definitely getting some. Well, we're actually getting some swirls now in the outer edges. This is actually quite a surprise. I didn't think we were going to be able to see much out of this, and it's turning out to be one of the prettiest ones we've seen so far. There's actually nice swirls that are showing up in here, nice structure that's showing up, and we're getting a fairly defined central core that tapers off quite nicely. In fact, we've even got a little bit of an arm sticking out here, possibly one even on the other side. So this is turning out to be a nice little galaxy. NGC 1367. Might let this go an extra couple of minutes just to see what we can pull out of it. It is. I've never seen this one before. I've never really shot any of these galaxies down this far in the southern sky. So, and I figured one of the reasons I decided to do this group is because most people in the Northern Hemisphere don't really have access to it. Us folks down this far south do, so I've never even seen most of these. So they're all kind of a surprise. The Eridanus A group I had seen before, so I kind of knew what was there. But none of these others have I seen, so this one turned out to be a nice little surprise. Not really seeing a whole lot else in the view. Not really seeing a whole lot else there. Everything else pretty much, and that might be fuzzy enough to be something, but hard to tell. So, looks like this guy's kind of in the picture by himself, but he's a nice one. We'll let it catch this next sub-exposure. I'll even try pushing the stretch a little bit more. Oh, actually I could darken that up some. Come on, drag onto there. That might be a little more contrasty. It's a nice round disk. I wonder what our angle is. I wonder if we're looking at it head on, or if we're looking at it and it's a nice round, and it's an oval, or orientation angle 135 degrees. Okay, so we are about 45 degrees from edge on, so it's probably fairly circular, and we're looking at it just 45 degrees off from looking at it straight on. But that's a pretty cool little picture. Pretty darn nice. Yeah, that's good. Oh, there's 13 minutes. So that's about as good as we're going to get it for tonight. But I think that came out pretty well. Nice surprise there. Okay. Nice surprise there. Alright. Now I think next what we're going to try and see is a planetary nebula. The Robin's Egg Nebula. Now this is a pretty blue nebula with the color camera. Obviously that's not what I've got in right now, but I have imaged this before with a color camera, and you can see it's a pretty blue. But we'll see what we can pick out for structure on this with the monochrome camera. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3 is 1, 2, 3. It looks like to me. So let's just go with it as we are. Start imaging. Take the old one out. Yeah. Okay. And we are good to go. Let's see what we get here. So it could be a little brighter. And what is it? NGC 1360. Let's see what Wikipedia has on that. NGC 1360. also known as Robin's Egg Nebula, is a planetary nebula in Fornax. It was identified as a planetary nebula due to its strong radiation in the oxygen 3 bands. Reddish matter believed to have been ejected from the original star before its final collapse is visible in images. It is slightly fainter than IC 2003. The central star of the system was suspected to be binary since 1977, but was only confirmed in 2017. The central source consists of a low-mass O-type star and a white dwarf. It was discovered in January 1868 by the German astronomer Friedrich August Theodor Winnecke. So there. Doesn't say how far away it is. Maybe Stellarium has that info. Distance about 1145 light years. So definitely one of our neighbors. Yeah, there we are. Biggest day right there. Let's see what we can pick out for, because there is a little bit of structure in these. Every base right now, Julian, how many images are in the stack is your question. Whoa. Wow, I just had a weird internet spike where my signal went to 0. Anyway, I'm assuming you guys are all still there. I'm taking 60-second sub-exposures, so every time a sub-exposure finishes, it goes onto the stack. So in the last case when we did that nice little galaxy there, I did 13 minutes on it, so it was 13 60-second sub-exposures stacked up to make that image. Yeah, I just had some sort of temporary little blip with the, I just saw the red light on my broadcast software come on, and the output was 0. Normally it's pretty solid, so must have been an internet blip. Yeah, that galaxy that we just finished was 13 minutes of total exposure time. And there it goes again. Well, I may have little internet weirdnesses going on. Not sure why, but so that was a total of 13 minutes. So it was 13 1-minute, 13 60-second sub-exposures like that. And if you do lose me momentarily or have a little bit of buffering going on, the internet seems to be up and down and doing weird stuff, but I guess that's what happens sometimes. And when you live out here in the middle of nowhere like I do, in the middle of the desert, it's great for dark skies, but not so great for high-tech services. Although I gotta say, our provider out here does a great job, so we have pretty darn solid internet out here. So yeah, and I'm starting to see little error messages too from YouTube going, "We're not getting any data. We're not getting any data," because it blips. Yeah, see, and I don't know. It keeps going up and down. I'm not sure what's causing it, but it goes down and then comes up. So anyway, you guys may see some intermittent buffering, but hopefully I will. That one came out real bad, that last one. Is that this one? Yeah, that's this most recent one. Let's see what it looked like. I don't know, I don't see anything terrible with that, but whatever. Definitely am seeing a little bit of a patch of color up here, what would be color up here, the red gas or material they were talking about. Yeah, there's a little bit of structure up there. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you can see it more clearly now that I got it a little bit bigger. But if we had the color camera in, it would be nice. It would be a pretty robin's egg blue, hence the name. And I wonder if it's, well, I wonder if we're seeing both stars. It's only 1100 light years away, so I'm wondering if we can see both stars, because I think it's definitely a binary. So, or maybe that bright star is the central star and the fainter one we can't quite see. Or maybe we are seeing them both. Maybe that's both of them right there. Yeah, as I was saying that, Julian, your message came in. So, yeah, I'm not sure. That's a good question. And I notice I am starting to buffer, the video is starting to buffer a little bit. So, apologize for that. So my broadcasting bandwidth seems to be going up and down momentarily, and I seem to go through patches of this when I'm broadcasting, and then most nights it's just rock solid and fine. Tonight it seems to be doing the roller coaster thing, so apologize if where you're seeing a little buffering out there. But I'll stay with you. It always seems to come back. It just drops and then comes back, and drops and comes back up and down. Frank, are the diffraction spikes on the brighter stars from the supports on the secondary mirror? Yes, they are. Yeah, I've got a secondary mirror holder that has four spurs coming off it. So those are the primary up and down and side to side, and then we even get a little more diffractions that go out at 45 to that. And anyway, I choose to call it pretty, but yes, those are diffraction spikes from my the four vanes on my secondary mirror holder. Well, I was hoping we'd get a little more detail out of it than this, but you can kind of see that there definitely is a dark patch in here, as opposed to the more cloudy spot here. And of course we got this clear segment here. So there is a little bit of structure there, but I thought with the monochrome we might get a little more than that, but looks like not. Try pushing the stretch a little bit. And are we seeing any other galaxies in this image? Don't think so. This is kind of an interesting shape out here. It's not a galaxy, but I think it's actually 3 stars. Because all these other stars are pretty round, so this isn't a stretched star due to bad tracking. But there's definitely a bulge out here, and a second star in here, so this is looking like maybe a visible, some sort of trinary star system there. I'm actually seeing 3 stars. So anyway, there's one nebula for the night, not total galaxies, and we're going to try and do one more later too, which is usually a pretty cool one. But well, we'll see when we get there. In the meantime, that's the Robin's Egg Nebula. Let's do the next NGC 1398, huh, Frank? Ah, yeah, well, that's... Well, what the heck? It is right there. It does look like a brighter one. Let's zip it. It's 26 degrees. I don't like getting much under 30 degrees because then my contrast really does start dropping. So I try to stay above 30 degrees or better, but yeah, this looks like a pretty cool one. Alright, yeah, so there's those 3 there. They're kind of an arrowhead pointing, and that's those 3 there. They're pointing right at it, so I think we're good to go. So let's just start imaging it. And so what is it? It's NGC 1398. This is 80 million light years away. NGC 1398. NGC 1398. Alright. NGC 1398 is an isolated barred spiral galaxy exhibiting a double ring structure. It's located 65 million light years from Earth in the constellation of Fornax, a galaxy with a diameter of 135,000 light years. So, you know, it's just a little bit bigger than the Milky Way, which is about 100 or 110,000, I believe. Over 100 billion stars are in the galaxy. It was first discovered by Friedrich Wienecke again of Germany in 1868 while he was searching for comets. Just like Mr. Messier, who made his famous list of 103 objects or 101 objects, and they've since added several more. Now it's 110. But he was also a comet hunter. Kept running into the same objects over and over in the sky that turned out to not be comets, and he got tired of looking at them, and so he started to make a catalog of these bright objects and things that were not comets, and so that he wouldn't continue looking at them all the time, and ended up making one of the most famous astronomical lists that there is, because what he ended up with was a list of some of the brightest and most spectacular objects in the sky. So we all use it now. Especially amateur astronomers, because they tend to be the biggest and brightest objects out there. It's great for amateur astronomers to look at, because even with lower end equipment, you can see almost all of them. Now, if you have a big old 16-inch telescope like Julian does, well, you can see a lot more than that. Or if you have a camera. So even me with my dinky little 6-inch scope can see quite some distance, because modern CMOS cameras have come so far. Okay, we just had a frame rejected. Why? Boy, again, we're way up with the FWHM, and again, this is because I'm a little bit lower in the sky than I like being, so the contrast is a little bit lower. The sky is a little bit mushier and less precise, so I may just have to turn that filter off if it causes too many problems. In fact, I think I'll just turn it up again to 13. If it fails at 13, it's not worth having. Julian's scope, I believe, is a 6. But that may be bad memory from the last time I used it at the last Furnace Creek Star Party, which was, gosh, 2 years ago now? That was a long time ago. But I think his scope is f6. I'm sure he'll confirm it in the chat here. Which filter am I talking about? Oops, I got that out of the way. Filter. I don't recall talking about a filter. What was I saying? Okay, yeah. Thanks, Frank. I'm thinking a filter. I'm thinking an optical filter. You were talking about this full width half maximum filter that I use, and that is basically what it's a way of measuring the sharpness of an image, basically. And so what the FWHM filter does is it looks at the image and it gives it a sharpness rating, an FWHM number. And if the frame is too fuzzy, then it gives it a high number. If the frame is nice and sharp, it gives it a low number. And so you can set this with a cutoff such that any sub-exposure that comes in that is above a certain threshold, in this case I've put it up to 13. Oops, it looks like we got another bad one. Yep, that one's terrible. Anything that comes in with a high FWHM number, it means it's a very fuzzy or a blurred sub-exposure. And you don't want to put that kind of sub-exposure on your stack, because then it mushes the stack out, or if it's slightly blurred, then it creates oval stars in your stack or whatever. So you want those to be rejected. And so in SharpCap you can engage the FWHM filter, which you turn on right here with this checkbox, so that as it brings in a sub-exposure, it analyzes the sub-exposure for its FWHM number, and if it's too high, meaning it's a bad exposure, it rejects it. Now in the case of this last one, it thought this one was too fuzzy or too something. It's very handy if, let's see what happens. Yeah, see, this one was acceptable. Although these numbers are significantly higher than what I'm normally working at. Again, because I'm so low in the sky, I'm below 30 degrees, so everything is going to be a bit mushy. But it's a very handy thing for nights like this, where you can have a little bit of cloud passing overhead here and there, and so that'll fuzz everything out, and you don't want to, the software then automatically rejects any of those problems. Or sometimes the mount will move. Before I put my mount on the wedge and I was not equatorially aligned, the interesting thing about these Celestron scopes is when they are in AltAz mode, every 30 seconds the hand controller sends an update to the mount and says, oh, you need to correct for this and correct for this because the sky is moving in this direction. And so every 30 seconds the mount would move a little bit. in AltAz mode. And so that would cause a blurry frame because the mount would move slightly. So in order to get to 30 seconds or beyond with your exposures, you have to equatorially mount the mount. And so that's why I have it on the wedge, so that now the rotational speed of the mount is constant. There's no updates. Once it gets on a target, all it does is turn that rotational motor on, the azimuth motor on, or in this case the right ascension motor, and it just runs at a constant rate, which is the rate of the rotation of the Earth, or sidereal rate is the name for it. And it tracks the sky very evenly without needing any updates from anything. So the scope is just tracking very steadily and very evenly, and allows exposures of, well, in my case, 60 seconds and beyond if you want to do that. Yeah, Frank, that's exactly what happens. Yeah, John, so I have it set to, right now it's set to an FWHM number of 13. Normally I have it set on 10, and normally it's happy at 10. You know, normally I'm seeing numbers that are in the 7 and 8 range, sometimes even 6 on a clear night. Sometimes it'll even get down into the 5s, where it's really clear and sharp, and you'll get nice low FWHM numbers. Tonight, it's with the transparency is not great. We're having some tropical flow coming through. There are high, thin, wispy clouds around, and I'm shooting below 30 degrees of the horizon. So all of those things add up to definite potential for some some higher FWHM numbers, and some rejections as a result. No, Julian, I'm not guiding, and I really have no interest in guiding. Quite frankly, if you have to use guiding, I think you're in... that's kind of a line of demarcation for me between electronically assisted astronomy and astrophotography. So yeah, and you know, and guiding is another whole system that you've got to deal with. It's another camera, possibly another scope, another piece of software that's running on your computer next to all the other pieces of software that I already have running. It's just another level of complexity that I'm totally not interested in. Well, definitely seeing a little bit of structure in this galaxy too. Definitely a circular pattern in here, and then the circular arms. This one's very similar to the other one. It's just that the inner disk isn't quite as big as the last one was, and the outer arms are a little bit bigger and a little bit thinner and wispier, so it's a little bit fainter. Hey Andy, good to see you. Oh, Kona, you had a little earthquake out there, huh? A little trembler. Well, hopefully that's the end of it. No worries, Andy. Good to see you. Right, we are currently on, what are we on, guys? NGC 1398. So I'm shooting some of the galaxies down in the area of Eridanus in the low southern sky. Actually, technically, they're calling these in fornax, although they look like they're closer to the Eridanus, the great snake, than fornax, but they consider these in fornax. So. But pretty good little structure there. We'll give this another minute or two. But some nice little wispy spirals there. It's a pretty cool looking one. No, these are all 60-second subs, John. I was thinking that I was going to have to drop with the breeze we were having. I was thinking I was going to have to shorten my subs up tonight, but the breeze seems to have died off. I am seeing more of the high thin cloudiness starting to creep in from the north. Luckily, we're shooting the other direction, which is staying nice and clear so far. But yeah, there's always the chance we might have some clouds rolling in. Andy, you see you're working a local light pollution issue. What does that mean? Industrial goo. Yep, that's what I used. Industrial goo to hold the blocks together and to glue the top board onto the blocks. But they're not glued to the cement pad. What's the temperature here? It's very warm, actually. It's probably still in the 50s right now. We were about 75 today, and it's supposed to be mid to upper 70s right through the weekend here. So it's actually quite warm. In fact, the camera right now, I have my darks, my dark frame set 10 degrees C, and right now the camera is at 17.5. It was up to almost 20 earlier. So much warmer than I expected it would be tonight, but not complaining. Camera's got a little more noise than normal, but not too bad. As always, I'm always brighter in the upper right than the lower left. More of that lovely amp glow. Yeah, well, if you want to live in New England, it's going to be cold in the winter. What can you say? I don't know if Julian told you, but I'm actually from New England. I'm from New Hampshire myself, so I know I'm not unhappy to be out here in the desert, especially this time of year. Oh yeah, those light pollution issues. Yeah. Light as a weapon. Alright, cool. So there is 1398. That was a cool one. See, we did that one, I guess we could try 1302. And that's as far south as I want to go. We're getting down close to 25 degrees. But, getting down close to 25 degrees, and we're actually going to start running into roof issues if I get any much lower, so we definitely want to, yeah, so we've got kind of a snaky wandering of stars here. That is this. So looks like it's going to be right in here. So again, I think we're about perfect. So let's see. Start imaging. Let's see what this one looks like. NGC 1302. Stellarium doesn't even have a picture for this one. NGC 1302. Nothing. Well, I'll have to wait to see what you guys tell me SkySafari says. You know, I should just bring out my SkySafari on my tablet. Distance, this is saying Stellarium is claiming 65 million light years. An orientation angle of 170 degrees, so this should be fairly round. They're saying we're looking at it almost straight on down. Built-in camera cooling, yeah, John. The problem though is that there's also plenty of built-in humidity and dew formation. Yuck. Me, on the other hand, I've never even purchased a dew heater. I have a light tube on the front of mine, but it isn't a dew shield, it's actually a light shield. So and we obviously, well, hey, this one looks pretty nice. And we also have another straggler in here. Clearly another galaxy right there. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. Back that off just a tiny bit. Did we fail another FWHM? Oh, no. This failed for another reason. Detected 12 stars. Calculated transform. Live stacking. Deactivated live stacking. No. You gotta go to the current update of the log. Detected 9. So failed to align with the reference frame. Failed to calculate alignment. 4 stars in the frame image. So it only got 4 stars in the frame image. Interesting. Let's see what the individual frame looked like. Really? How did you only get 4 stars out of that? Yeah, it's just fuzzy. But this is the risk of shooting so low to the horizon. It is 25 degrees, you know, which is not on the horizon, but still, on a mushy night like tonight, it's enough to cause issues. And that's now ignored 2 in a row. Well, we may have to... I don't think I'm in a roof. Doesn't look like I'm in a roof line. Huh. I'm not sure why we're not... I'm not sure why we're not getting more stacks in here. The first one seemed to come in pretty nicely, but we haven't been getting anything else. Too bad. I want to see both of these galaxies better. But if we can't see it, we can't see it. Oh, yay, we got a second one. All right, keep rolling. Skiing isn't safe, motorcycles are safer. Wow. I'm just going to leave that one alone, John. I've used mine once since moving here in 2012. Really? You've had to use a dew heater here? Julian, really? Well, you're probably meaning well, maybe in the city. I mean, you have more moisture in the Las Vegas Valley due to the city, but still, I'm surprised to hear that. I am surprised to hear that. Ooh, stacked a third one. We've got some momentum going now. So Frank, PGC 12309, that's the one in the upper right corner. Oh, you used it once at Cathedral Gorge. Huh. You must have just had a rainstorm or something. How far away is it, Frank? Does Stellarium tell you? Or SkySafari or whatever you're using? It was a humid evening, everyone dewed up but me. Huh. Yeah, I would think it's I would think not many people around here have dew heaters. You must have just had like a rainstorm or something, because that's pretty unusual. Oh, dang it, we lost that frame. We definitely are struggling to collect frames on this one. We're only running at 50% right now. You can see down here in the lower part here, down on the bottom, where it says how many are stacked and how many are ignored. So every time it gets to the end, you hope you get the numbers growing here and not here. And then this, of course, is the total integration time of all of the stacked ones. Oh yeah, in Connecticut, yes, yeah. The humid East Coast, absolutely. Ugh, another one got ignored. Yeah, we're just not getting detected 4 stars. Yeah, it's just not detecting enough stars. So we may not be able to. I'll give it one more frame here, but it's we're not able to stack very well tonight. Conditions are not favorable. But we may have to come off this one. Too bad, looks like a cool little galaxy, and another one in the upper right too. But if we can't get clean enough sub-exposures on it, we'll just have to come off it. And I don't see any clouds over there, so I'm not sure what we're. Maybe we could even be in a wire, or telephone wire or something. Well, there we got a 4th sub. We seem to be running about 50%. One dropped, one good, one dropped, one good. How many stars did it see in that good one? It detected 5 stars. So with 5 stars, it'll do it. Alignment. Align using 15 stars. We'll drop to 10. Of course, that doesn't make any difference. All I got is a difference between 5 and 10, or 10 and 15. Well, all we're seeing is 4 or 5. So none of them should be stacking. Another one got ignored. Alright, we're going to come off this. Interesting little galaxies, but we're dropping too many subs. This is going to take forever to try and get this. So we'll move up from this one. We'll just head up sky. Okay, next target. We will head up sky. And we'll just keep going up. We'll skip that one. Holmberg 6. Holmbergs. Yeah, those tend to be fairly dim little targets. But we're up to almost 30 degrees here, so hopefully we'll have more contrast with it. Let's see what we can see here. So we got 2 star bright ones here with a little double going on, which is that right there. So yeah, I think we're pretty much dead on. Got a little breeze kicking up right now too, so that may cause its own issues. In fact, I think I'm going to wait for this little puff of breeze to pass before I start the imaging, because it's just going to blur the exposure. But we do have a nice little breeze kicking up here. So give it a minute or so to pass. the meantime, I'll take the opportunity to, for those stragglers who showed up late, to show you what my setup is. It's a 6-inch f4 imaging Newtonian reflector telescope that's riding on top of a Celestron Evolution AltAz mount that is on top of my homemade wedge that is permanently polar lined on this stack of cinder blocks. This is my cinder block pier that is not glued to the pad, but the blocks are glued to each other with concrete construction adhesive, and the top board of the wedge is glued to the blocks. And so the wedge, the wooden wedge part, and the blocks stay outside, permanently polar lined, which makes my job of setup much easier, and the telescope and mount and everything else go inside. And so that's what I am currently using, and the camera goes in this stack of gear here is basically all the focuser. The camera goes in the top of all of that, and instead of a telescope eyepiece. And so that's how we are seeing the images we are seeing tonight, is through the camera. And well, let's start the imaging and see. The breeze has kind of settled down a little bit. We may end up with some blurry subs, and there definitely are some thin wispy clouds kind of working their way down from the northern sky. We are shooting in the other direction, but if they get a whole lot closer, our conditions may deteriorate a little here. Have you ever had your eyelashes freeze to the eyepiece? That is when you know it is time to leave. Nope, can't say that I have. In fact, you guys are probably hearing the wind on my microphone right now, which is not a good sign, because it probably means I'm going to get a blurry sub-exposure here. Yep, that's a pretty blurry sub-exposure, but a couple of nice galaxies in here. Yeah, unfortunately the wind has just kicked up here, so out of nowhere it has just all of a sudden gusted up. So I'm going to clear this before the next one comes in, but I don't think the next one's going to be any much better. Well, hopefully it'll subside here in the next few minutes. Let's clear that one out, see what the next one looks like. Not a whole lot better. You can see how all the stars are ovaled because the breeze is blowing them out around. So hopefully it's just a quick gust up for a few minutes. Thanks, Maureen. I appreciate it. I spared no expense on that sucker. The blocks and the wood, both of them, were scrap on my landlord's property here. He's kind of a pack rat, so all those materials were actually repurposed from scrap. So I'm helping the environment too. There you go. Alright, maybe the wind has calmed down. Let's try clearing this and see if this next one is any better. That's a little better. Stars aren't quite so round. Let's see what we can do with this. Definitely got at least 2 galaxies in here. And I think there's probably more. I think this is another little kind of group shot, but if the wind stays calmed down, we'll be able to get some exposures and get enough subs in here to really bring up some contrast. Oh, we got a second one. That's a good sign. That's a good thing. But yeah, we definitely got a pair of galaxies in here. And so this is Holmberg 6. It's only about 60 million light years away, so this is not too far away as these things go. And then we got another little fuzzy one up here that Frank and Todd probably tell us what that is. My favorite Bob Carruthers scope was the hissing inner tire tube for tracking rate. Wow. Oh yeah, see here's number 3 right here. That's clearly another galaxy out here. So we're up to 3 so far. Really? Doesn't show up in Stellarium, huh? Wow. Hey, we've discovered a galaxy. Well, let's see if maybe I've got more catalogs installed than you. Who knows? Doing, doing, doing. Let's see if anything shows up. Wow, no, there's one in this direction. Okay, yeah, see, so the second one. This one shows up, but this one does not show up. Does not show up in the galaxies that exist. I think I have all the catalog. Yeah, I have all the catalogs they have in there installed. So it's not in all the catalogs they have, but you know, Stellarium doesn't have everything, I'm sure. How do you spell Holmberg? Yeah, you got it exactly right, John. We have discovered a new something. We'll have to check it out tomorrow night and see if it moved. The bowling ball mount, the salad bowl tracker mount. I don't know, we'd have to come up with something more scientific than calling it just Jerry. You know, because then it could be like Seinfeld. Definitely something up there, though. Could take this picture and put it in astrometry and put it in astrometry.net, put this image in astrometry.net, and it will probably come up with whatever it is. It's probably some galaxy thing. Well, Julian, I guess Saturday night maybe we'll have to come back here, and I'll have to reshoot this. Although during the LVAS event, it'll be too early because the moon will be up and we'll be right in this area of the sky, so it probably will wash out. The moon doesn't set on Saturday, I think, till about 9 here, so it'd be tough to get something this faint with the moon in the sky. But who knows? It's worth a shot. Something to do. Ooh, looks like we just lost a sub. What happened? Yeah. Well, again, we got mushed out, I think. Detected 5 stars. Stacked image only has 5 stars. The sky looks still pretty clear, at least in the southern half. So far so good. That one's stacked okay. But there's at least 3 galaxies here. Can't see much more. There's definitely a fuzzy patch there, but it's so dim. Who knows? Actually, what I might do instead is, before I move on from this, I will take a snapshot of this, the image that we come up with, and I will plug it into astrometry.net, and it will probably identify the object, whatever it is. I mean, it could be a comet. I don't have comets turned on. Well, I would think, though, if it's going to be this bright, I would think we'd be hearing about a comet that could be seen in the sky, so I doubt it's a comet. An alien spaceship, perhaps, but a comet, I think we'd hear about it. But astrometry.net hopefully we'll have it. Oh, thanks, Frank. Thanks for being our research department today. So what you're saying is that the object is there in other people's submissions, but it's just not identified, right? Or are you saying it's not there at all, and we're just seeing it for the first time tonight or whatever? It's there but not circled and numbered. Got it. Okay. Well, there you go. We don't get to name it what we want. Somebody else already discovered it. Dang it. Oh well. It's probably just a galaxy, as suppose it could be a planetary nebula too, but so it looks like 1, 2, 3. I'm assuming this is a galaxy, even though we can't identify it. But then this is definitely one. We know that. We know this is one. Got some interesting little structure in there too. Let's see where the yeah, we're pretty good. Push the stretch a little bit more so you guys can see a little bit more out of it. But I think we pretty much got what we got out of it. Really, SkySafari doesn't have any of the Holmberg galaxies? That's interesting. There's a whole series of them. One of them is right next to M81. Holmberg 9, I believe, is right next to M81. So some of them are right there. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, but why go out and enjoy it yourself when you can watch it on TV? Watch somebody else do all the work and the setup and the tear down and the, you know. Oh, that's interesting that the Holmberg stuff isn't in SkySafari. That's kind of surprising. I wonder if it's a catalog that needs to be added or something, because I thought SkySafari had pretty much everything. Cool. Well, that's a pretty good. So there's a 12 minutes on the on NGC 1325. Where to next? 1353. 1230. Did we do 1353? I think we already did that, didn't we? I think we did that on the way down. So 1232. Eye of God Galaxy. Whoa. Okay. Eye of God Galaxy. Well, we're going to have to go check that out. Alright, next target 178. Get all of our settings in Find a Galaxy mode. And tell Stellarium to go there. Yeah, we got another nice little spiral, nice little pinwheel galaxy going here. Alright. Let's just, I'm going to assume that was such a short hop, I'm going to assume we're there. So let's just go ahead and do it. I'm not sure all the Holmberg galaxies have NGC numbers because I think they're too faint. I think they'll have PGC numbers, but I don't think they have NGC numbers. I could be wrong on that. They're pretty faint targets. But you can look it up, Frank. I mean, if you just type in this, hit F3 and type in the search box in Stellarium, Holmberg, Holmberg, the whole list of them will come up, and you can go to them in Stellarium and see if they have corresponding NGC numbers. But I think at least some of them might not have them. Where were we here? Holmberg 9. Well, Holmberg 6 has an NGC number. So, I could be wrong. .32. Yeah, see, so if I go to M81, M81, then Holmberg is going to be somewhere right in here. So let me Here, let me just do the search. Holmberg, H-O-L-M. Yeah, so Holmberg 9, boom, is going to be right there. And yeah, see, it only has a PGC catalog number. It does not have an NGC. And I shot M81 the other night, and you could see that Holmberg was there, but it's very faint. It's very faint. Oh, I hate it when it does this. The search box comes up and then the cursor doesn't go into it. And so you're typing in NGC catalog numbers, and instead of the software interpreting it as a catalog, something as text you're typing in, it's taking it as hotkeys and it's turning stuff on and off all over the software, and you don't even know it. Frustrating. Well, I guess you'll have to, since you beta the software, I guess you'll have to file a report saying, hey, where are my Holmberg objects? I don't think there are that many of them. Could be wrong on that. How many are there of Holmberg? Let's see if Wikipedia knows. H-O-L-M-B-E-R-G. Holmberg catalog. Wow. Okay, this just lists a ton of people. Holmberg, a regular dwarf galaxy. It's a regular dwarf galaxy and a satellite galaxy, and it's a satellite of M81. The galaxy is named after Eric Holmberg, who first described it, based on the observed age distribution of stars it contains. It is thought to have formed within the last 200 million years, making it the youngest nearby galaxy. It's also home to one of two newly discovered yellow supergiant eclipsing binary systems. Whoa. Well, let's click on Eric Holmberg. Most famous for his work in the effects of interacting galaxies, the research showed. Personal life, scientific work. Performed arguably the first n-body simulation. Doesn't really say he has like a catalog. So it doesn't say anything about him having a catalog or anything. I guess there's just some galaxies that he found. In any event, let's kick the brightness up on that a little bit. Although I would be, again, John, though, I'm really surprised. Even if they don't have something listed as Holmberg, I would think they would have the PGC, the Peculiar Galaxies catalog, in SkySafari, especially in the Pro level, where you have pretty much, they throw in everything, including the kitchen sink. So I'd be surprised if they didn't have the PGC, but and you said you saw a bunch of PGCs around M81, so it's probably in there as a PGC, but just not listed as a Holmberg, or they don't worry about the Holmberg listing. Ooh, another one ignored. Detected 3 stars. Yeah, we're now starting to drop frames all over the place again. Eh. Don't know why. Yeah, some of the stars, I mean, you've really only got one. Yeah, so it's probably just these three brightest stars. This is probably too close to the edge. It's probably only able to use these three brightest stars because the rest are too dim. Perhaps because we've gotten into a little bit of cloudiness out there. Although I don't see anything, but still. It's not stacking anything. So this may be all we get out of this, unfortunately. It stacked the first four no problem, and now it has not stacked a single thing since. So we may just have to come off this one. Too bad. Uh-oh. See, now all of my galaxies have gone away. Oh, it was the N. I typed in NGC, so it was either N or G or C was the hotkey. Okay. Well, too bad. That looks like a pretty one, and we're not going to be able to... Looks like we're not going to be able to see much of it. Let's see what this one collects. Got an interesting thing out here, too. Is that another galaxy or a star formation area in this one? Yeah, it's just ignoring everything now. So apparently this is not, it's in a bad spot or something. See if we can go up a little higher. I wanted to see if I could shoot Skull too, but I think that's probably already dropped down. Oh yeah, that's down already well below. Shoot! Okay, I missed that one. Dope. Bummer. Well, here's a nice little group. We'll try just this little group here. It's up nice and high, and there seems to be a group of them in there. So, well, let's actually... can I actually see the group of them in my... possibly. I might be able to get M77 and this one in there together. That would be a good way to finish the night off. Well, now you're stacking an... Okay, now you're stacking another sub on here. Okay, this is your last chance. This is your last chance. If you stack one on, I'll stay with you. If you don't, I'm moving on. Let's see what happens. Oh, moving on. Okay, we are moving on. Next target 178. Alright. Let's go to NGC 1055 and see if we can't pull M77 in the same frame. It's a nice one too, nice edge on. Okay, this could be it here. Not... Huh. Alright, let's see if my plate solver... Let's pull an 8-second sub and see if my plate solver will solve this time. Solve the last one. Oh, yeah, you actually, I can see, you can see the galaxy right here. You can see at the with the 8-second sub, you can see the galaxy right there. So I'll give this a few seconds to see if it'll solve, but obviously the galaxy is right there. This plate solver works great on my larger sensor camera, but does not seem to want to work on the 178. Yeah, this is just, forget it. Taking too long. Go away. Okay, so we know it's right down there. So yeah, so that these two stars are these two stars, and the galaxy's right in here. So all I really want to do is bring those two stars up. So I just want to bring this up in the view, and then we should, whoop, wrong key. Bring it up in the view, and we should be able to get M77 right in the view. Yeah, an M77 should be right. Oh, okay, so those, ooh, we might, so it has to be actually below that. Okay, let's keep going up. Keep going up. Yeah, see, there's M77 right there. Let's see, this is going to be a little bit of a stretch to kind of try and get them both in the same thing, but I think I can do it. Alright, let's try that. That's M77 clearly down there. So let's see if we can put them both in the same image. I think I should be able to. According to Stellarium, I should be able to. Yeah, I should be able to do this. Hopefully. Get them both in there together. We're waiting for that. Yeah, we got more in there. Another NGC up there. There's a few more galaxies up in around Pisces. Yay, we got them both. Coolness. Now we'll just hope we can collect some sub-exposures on them. We got here GC 1055 and GC 1055. Deep. 1055 is an edge-on spiral located in the constellation Cetus. The galaxy has a prominent nuclear bulge crossed by a wide, knotty, dark lane of dust and gas. The The spiral arm structure appears to be elevated above the galaxy's plane and obscures the upper half of the bulge. Discovered on December 17th, 1783 by William Herschel from his home in Slough, England. It is a binary system together with the bright spiral galaxy M77. Ah, okay. So it's fitting that we are shooting these in the same frame because they're actually a binary galaxy system. Huh. These two are the largest galaxies of a small galaxy group that also includes NGC 1073 and 5 other small irregular galaxies. Cool. So 1073 is right here. So these two galaxies are a binary galaxy system, and then 1073 is up here. Apparently they're saying there are a number of galaxies in here, so we might even see some. Oh yeah, up here in the upper left we've got one. That's a pretty clear one up there, although I'm not seeing many others beside that, at least in this moment. Boy, look at M77 there in the bottom left-hand corner. It's pretty cool looking. Obviously a very sharp inner core disk, but then definitely an outer wispy ring too, which is pretty cool looking. Yeah, definitely a nice, very clear dark dust line through here. It does have thicker and thinner spots, so like I said, a knotty. It's all got all kinds of knots of thick spots and thinner spots. Very cool. Now, of course, if I had that in the lower left-hand corner of the sensor, like M77 is, you'd be able to see it a bit better. Unfortunately, that upper right corner is, because of the amp glow of the sensor, is kind of the worst place for it to be, but you still get it, still see it pretty well. Let's see if I don't have my blacks clipped a little here. Just a titch. How is this doing? It's doing pretty good. Okay. pretty nice. I'm actually seeing some swirling patterns in the inner core of M77 down here. Bright core and just a little bit of a swirl in there, and then faint swirls in the outer part. It's a very interesting looking galaxy. Sharp contrast between the inner hub and the very faint wispy rest of it. Not much of a gradient between them. It's just a very sharp and then just suddenly becomes very thin and wispy. Pretty interesting. Yeah, now I'm just stacking non-stop here. No ignored subs now that I'm up a little bit higher. I guess there just must be some soup down there that I'm not seeing that wasn't letting us get as much clarity as we was hoping. There's an interesting little smudge there too, just above this star. That could very well be a galaxy up there. Certainly one there. Where else are we seeing any in here? Yeah, that's a possibility. Nice little smudge there. This is also a possibility. It's a little bright core and a smudge. But this up here definitely looks like it is something. Definitely looks like it is something up there. Something sticking out of the side of that star. If I can get this synced kind of better on where... Oops, no, it's not what I wanted to do. Shoot. Crap. That's not what I wanted to do. Well... might just have to synchronize on that star. because that's pretty much the center of where the scope is. So when we move to the next target, I'll know what is the V of tiny stars in the center? I'm not sure what V you're talking about, Julian. Cool, well there's both of them together. I think what I want to do now is I want to actually move this down. I want to put this actually down into the bottom left. Get that. I want to get that galaxy a bit better. Yeah, so it's right there. I want to get that galaxy. There's so much great detail in that galaxy that I actually want to get that a bit better. So I want to put that down here where it's in the dark of the sensor a little bit better. And and see that galaxy, because there's a lot of detail in that galaxy, and I want to see that a little bit better. Oh, and I probably just blew it out of the way, because well, let me know if you can see it in the image still, but I have a feeling I just probably moved it out of the way. Although we can probably still see it in here. So you said there's a V somewhere in here in the center? I think we'll be able to see a lot more of this galaxy down here, because there's a lot of detail in it. So I want to take a few frames of this just by itself. Oh yeah, it's possible they were. You may be right, Frank. It may have been a little V of hot pixels jiggling around. Yeah, it may have just been hot pixels from the camera, which after I've taken several sub-exposures can sometimes show up. Yeah, they'll show up after several subs have been added onto the stack. They'll sometimes show up as a squiggle that will sometimes have a shape. Well, all the breeze and the clouds and everything disappeared. I'm actually getting a little too warm in my warm jacket here. Oh man, Another ignored frame. Come on. Why did you get ignored? Can't see enough stars again. Detected 4 stars. Interesting. Even with a 60-second exposure, you're only seeing 4 stars, huh? Well, up this high in the sky, it should be a fluke. They're going to happen now and again, but it shouldn't be terribly frequent in this part of the sky. So, probably just be a one-off. Why wouldn't the dark frame remove them? Well, good question. The dark frame may not. I may have to take another dark. Well, I just took this dark frame recently. Part of the reason is I'm several degrees above where I took my dark frame. I took my dark frames at right about 10 degrees. A week or so ago when I came out here to take the dark frame, it was substantially colder than it is. Tonight's a nice warm night, and so the dark frames that I have are substantially warmer, colder than the camera is substantially warmer now than it was when I took those dark frames. So there's bound to be a few hot pixels here and there that have shown up with the warmer sensor than they did when it was colder. So that's my guess. And sometimes pixels go bad in a camera and just start having little artifacts, and so that's why you need to take your dark frames and update them every so often, because camera sensors do change. So I could have a new hot pixel on there that wasn't there when I took my dark frames a week ago. If the dark frame was, a few months old or 6 months old, I would say, yeah, it's just time to do a new one. But I just did these dark frames a week ago, so there shouldn't be too much difference in the sensor. The biggest change that I can come up with is just that it's just warmer tonight. Oh, looks like we lost another frame again. Failed to calculate. 4 stars. Yeah, if it gets less than 5 stars in the new sub, it won't stack. So, I'm kind of right on the verge of finding enough stars. And this is actually another thing that will improve with if I do go to the big sensor camera, the bigger sensor, the 183 as opposed to the 178. Much bigger sensor, a lot more stars in the frame, and so alignment will be a lot easier. So it is a spectacular galaxy. There's just, it's so three-dimensional. A nice big bright core and a very clear, thick dust lane all the way around the outside of it. And this looks like that's a nice sharp star, nice sharp star, nice sharp star. Fuzzy and faint, but too big to be a very distant. These could be just really distant, dim little stars. This looks too big and fuzzy to be a star. So that, I'm thinking, is another one in the group. Yeah, see, and I've got right there, got little ones going on there, little ones going on there. So I think those are just hot pixels playing up. I think mostly induced by the temperature. But this is a pretty cool galaxy. This is why I wanted to take it when in a darker part of the sensor, where we have a bit more contrast. Now that we're actually stacking subs again, we should be able to keep increasing on that contrast. Yeah, and we've got the blacks a little bit too blown out. Brighten that up a little bit for you. Gotta keep it bright, because the live stream definitely does lose some signal. But you can see the unevenness in the dark lane around the edge. Yeah, I think that's all it is, Julian. And then over time, if I connect enough subs, sometimes they'll even connect the dots and it'll turn into what you saw probably as a V shape. Because on that last one we did somewhere in the low teens for subs. So still continues to darken the image every time a sub, even the ninth one to come in, just darkened the background again a bunch. So they continue to add more and more more and more contrast. They continue to get rid of the background noise with every sub that comes in. More and more background noise goes away. Pretty cool. Yeah, it is much smaller than a star, just the size of a tiny little pixel, which shows you how tiny the pixels on this sensor are, which is why I love it. Get you all that little detail. You can really see that dust lane starting to show detail now. This is the kind of thing we could probably spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes just continuing to improve and improve and improve on this one thing, but come in pretty nice. All right. So we want to finish on a nebula, or do we want to finish on a galaxy? Good night, Julian. Thanks for stopping in, and we'll definitely see you on Saturday. Looking forward to it. Good night. Well, I'm tempted to finish with Triangulum again, but we did that the other night, so maybe what I'll do is we'll actually do Pleiades. Do some of the nebulosity of Pleiades, just to finish off tonight with a nice big bright object. I don't think I've ever done the Pleiades in mono. Unless anyone has another request to finish off with, probably just do that. What do we got here? Yeah, a little dumbbell did that the other night. Of course, Andromeda, but we got photo bombed by a satellite. Got photo bombed by a satellite right there through the thing. So let's just finish off with a look at something in the Pleiades to finish off tonight, and then we'll call it good. So let's go ahead up. Doing. Yeah, just do something in the Pleiades. They're pretty nice. It's a pretty nice target. It's actually too big for my sensor, so we'll only be able to do a few of the stars in it. But, yeah. Yeah, so it's this with this little group of stars here, is that with the little group of stars. So we kind of got this back part a little bit. And then these two stars here. So, yeah, let's just bring it up in the view a little bit. And then we'll, yeah, we'll try that. We'll try that. See what we get for 60 seconds there. Actually, 60 seconds may be a little too long for this. We'll see what we get, but it may actually blow it out, because this is such a big, bright object. It's actually a fabulous binoculars object, because it's so big and bright. And but we'll see. We'll see what 60 seconds gets. Probably just a bunch of bright, blown-out stars. But if we do, then we'll back off the exposure and take something with less exposure. Take something that's a little bit less exposure. Boom! Yeah, It's not too bad. I think once we adjust the histogram properly, it'll be okay. Yeah, you can definitely see the wispiness of the gas all through this. And learned the other night that, we'll just put this full screen, get rid of the software. Learned the other night that I always thought that this was, like so much in this area, it was a star formation area, and so that this was a nebula that formed all these bright hot stars, and they were just starting to spread out, move into space, and continuing to illuminate the gas cloud from which they had formed. But apparently they have recently changed their theory, and now they think that these stars are just traveling through they just happen to be traveling through a dusty, gassy part of the galaxy, and so they are just illuminating not the gas that formed them, but just some random thing that they're traveling through. So come on, go away. Well, this, I should have no problems with alignment on this, because there's so many bright stars in here, it'll have no problem finding alignment stars in this. This is a spectacular thing to see in the color camera. This is usually something I see in the color. Well, you'll get less detail, but it's all nice and blue, bright white hot blue stars everywhere. A rich region, but a nice big bright shiny thing to end the night on. Hey Ollie, you showed up just in time for my last object, which is Pleiades. Yep, so you're going to have to go back and watch it from the beginning again. But yeah, thanks for stopping by, even if you did get here just for the last moments. We're just finishing up on the Pleiades and seeing how that looks in mono, which is pretty cool. there is the Pleiades. Probably about as much as we need to get on this, because it's so bright. Getting more stuff doesn't really add to a whole lot. So I think I will take this opportunity to say thanks for stopping in, and the Saturday night I will be part of the Las Vegas Astronomical Society's online star party. So if you want to go to their Facebook page, they'll be doing a simulcast on Facebook live. So you could check it out there. But other than that, I think the moon is going to be in the sky now for the next couple of weeks. So tonight's probably the last night I'll be able to get out and do my own thing until the next dark of the moon. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Appreciate you being here, and for being chatty tonight. It's always nice when folks chat at you. It's makes it for a much more fun evening. So thanks for that. And yeah, I will see everybody next time. Thanks, guys. See you next time.